before we get started, like always, I want to thank every one of you all who has been participating in this journey with me, has gone from Rule 1 to Rule 10. We're actually on Rule 9 now. This is part 2. A couple of things. There's a lot of information we're covering, and I know that. And no one is expecting anyone to be able to memorize all the information that we cover, right? Remember, the main reason why we're doing this is just to get everybody acclimated to the rules, to hopefully show people there's more to the rules than a little bit that you think you know, and that there's a lot more to dive into to a rule book and to continue diving in it year after year after year. I've been looking at the rule book for over 17 years, and even today, I forget things or trying to recall things or even make rule mistakes. I take tests and quizzes all the time, and so I'm like, oh man, how did I miss that? But it happens. That's why it's so prudent that we get into the rules every single time we have an opportunity to ensure that we're ready to do our job. Remember, they are paying us. We're contracted, not for how we look, but what we know, right? We assign you to the games because you look the right way, just in case you try to get around that. But they're contracting us because we're supposed to be masters and experts of the rules. Not saying that we know everything from Rule 1 to Rule 10, but we know where to find it, and we keep ourselves sharp by standing the rules, by talking to friends and other colleagues about the rules, and challenging each other every time we get. All those are very important. Now, experience. I know I don't know if I gave it across the impression that I don't think experience is important. Experience is very important. But if we had to analogize it, or give it a metaphor, let's think about mixing concrete, all right? So we have education and we have experience, okay? We have the water and we have the concrete, or the power, whatever that stuff is called, whatever, the mortar, whatever. As you properly mix it, the education and experience, it starts to develop, it starts to harden, right? So a lot of times you might not remember everything we're teaching here, but as you go back, especially new officials, you have no memory or game experience to draw back on to relate to the rules that we're covering. So a lot of rules that we're covering, it's glossing over you. You don't understand what we're talking about. It don't make any sense because we're not showing any videos or anything like that, so you can draw relations to the rules that we're saying. If you watch football, some of it may make sense, but a lot of it may not make sense. But as you continue to get the experience and continue the education, it starts mixing together and forming a concrete and forming hard. So you need both. So you may have some experience. Now you got the education. Now you mix it together, right? You may go do a game. You may forget a rule. You may get it right. You may get it wrong. You may be questioning yourself. So you go back to the rule book and you look it up and you continue the mixture. And that's how we do it. It's a proper mixture of what? The rules and experience, right? That you need. And then you get the evaluator comes out to inspect it to make sure it's correct. And we don't have any, like down in I think down in Miami area, we had that sinkhole and the building fell down. All right. That's an analogy of somebody's mixing the education experience, but not getting evaluated. All right. You need evaluation just as important so you don't get no sinkholes and then the whole thing comes falling down. It's just an analogy. It might be a bad time for it, but I hope it relates to you. What you get a picture of what I'm trying to say. It is very important that you have education, experience, and evaluations, right? And we're going to be doing a lot more evaluating as we possibly can, and bring in some more scrimmage games in so we can get the experience in, so we can be great officials and do the things that we do. All right. let's get started. So in Rule 9, conduct and behavior of officials, we cover a lot, not in depth as I like to. We just try to get through the information, and again, we'll go over it again in the future. But remember the analogy that we gave in the beginning in regards to either speeding or actually running someone over with your car, right? One where you're speeding, the officer may stop you and give you a warning, or he may give you a ticket, all right? The other one, you're guaranteed to get a ticket and arrested if it finds you negligent in running someone over with your car. So understand that when we're talking about illegal personal contact and player safety and dealing with sportsmanship and keeping down the tension that we don't have any fights or gender any ill will, it's very important that we get it. We really can't give out warnings for things like that. We have to flag it. We have to protect the players if you consider it protecting, because the action already happened. We're not actually protecting the players, but we're enforcing the rules so that everyone knows that we will flag it or disqualify. So the next things we're going to go over in Rule 9, Section 4 is three things really important: is roughing the passer, running into a roughing the kicker, and roughing the snapper. If we think about it this way, it's everything in the middle, from the snapper to the kicker, holder, passer, everything in the middle. These are the only three fouls, because there's majority of all the fouls that we talked about in Rule 9, Section 4 carries a 15-yard penalty other than the incidental face mask or the running into the kicker. Other than that, everything is a 15-yard penalty. The thing is, in the National Federation of High School rules, a 15-yard penalty is not awarded or not necessarily awarded with awarded the first down series, or the layman term is automatic first down, right? And a lot of times when we're dealing with youth coaches, we get in a lot of back and forth with these coaches upset with us because we're not giving them an automatic first down. For the most part, 15-yard penalties will result in a first down if the line to gain are 10 or less, or let's say 15 or less. But it does not guarantee an automatic first down. There's only 3 fouls in the National Federation of High School rules that awards a new series of downs or an automatic first down. That is roughing the passer, roughing the kicker or holder, or roughing the snapper. Those are the only 3. Okay, so even though we have targeting or we have unnecessary roughness or slap to the helmet or any of those fouls that we covered, it will be 15 yards, but it does not include an automatic first down. Okay. And the next thing is these fouls can be a live ball foul or they can be a dead ball foul. All right. Remember in Rule 5, when we talked about the penalties and downs associated with fouls and penalties, if the foul in Rule 4 happens while the ball is live, it's a live ball foul, right? So we'll mark off the 15 yards, and let's say it moves them into, like, let's say 5 yards to the first, let's say 20 yards back. The second down, 20 yards. It'll move them up 15 yards. It'll be 5 yards to go, and we're going to repeat the down. They're going to be replayed second down and 5. It's not automatic first, unless it's one of the 3 that we stated. However, if the illegal contact happened after the play has ended, right? Let's say it was a dead ball foul. It's going to be 15 yards, but if it was second down and it happened after the end of second down, it's going to be third down. It'll be third down and 5. Right? Now, I know we're getting a little bit more into Rule 10, but I just wanted to just bring that out. I thought about it. I said, let's share it. I know we didn't go over a lot about the yardage penalties and distance on this. There's going to be a lot more time to cover all those things. I just really wanted to talk about fouls, not fouls, and we'll talk about what's 5, 10, and 15 in the near future. All right. So, roughing the passer. Let's get started. Defense players must make a definite effort to avoid charging into a passer. Okay. The defense player must make a definite effort to avoid charging into a passer. Right. Not that a defensive player can't make the tackle and cannot try to tackle the passer, but there needs to be some avoidance, and we'll talk about it here. One who has thrown the ball from in or behind the neutral zone and is referring to a legal forward pass. Okay, understand that if it was an illegal forward pass and they charge it to the passer, it would not be considered roughing the passer. It may be, you may be able to get unnecessary roughness, 943G, which is, I guess, a catchphrase for anytime we feel there was unnecessary contact made. However, it cannot be roughing the passer on an illegal forward pass. After it is clear the ball has been thrown. Again, if a defender is in the act of making the tackle, and some people say like one step away or whatever the case may be, he's engaged. A lot of times he's not going to see that the ball has actually been thrown, so it's not necessarily clear. And he's going to continue to make the tackle, as in the picture you depict here, right? His head is away, his head to the side. You don't know he threw the ball, but he's continuing on with his tackle, right? As long as the tackle is not, again, excessive, it will be a no foul call. One of the biggest things that we look for as a referee, and majority of what we're going to be going over is basically really a referee call, right? Roughing the holder, or the snap, roughing the snapper will tend to fall on the umpire, okay? But what we're looking for is this: a renewed charge. In other words, I'm coming in to make the tackle. And you got to remember, guys, everybody's emotions are high, especially if team B is behind and they're trying to get the ball back, or the coach is really, really getting into the line for not getting the sack. There's a lot of pressure on these athletes. You got to understand, they got pressure from their coaches, pressure from their parents, and pressure from their other teammates. These young men and women who are developing emotionally have a lot of pressure put on them. And a lot of times that pressure really just gets out of hand, and they get mad and frustrated that they can't do what they need to do. So what can happen, the scenario, is that he's frustrated, the quarterback is getting the ball off, and he's upset right now. So as he rushed in to make the tackle, he clearly sees that the ball has been released, but he still go ahead and make contact and charge into the passer because of his frustration. Those we have to get, right? We understand that the player is upset, he's frustrated, got all this pressure building upon him, but we cannot allow these type of contacts, especially on a passer, which is considered a defenseless player. So we have to make those calls. But again, as a referee, when I'm officiating, refereeing the game, when I see the ball is thrown, I always yell out, the pass is going, the ball is going. So to help the defense understand that, hey, go around them, try to avoid contact, especially if the ball has already been thrown from in behind the neutral zone, and it's clearly that the ball has been thrown. Okay, a passer is a player who throws a legal forward pass. Okay, the quarterback is not a passer until he passed the ball. made it a halfback option, and the halfback got the ball. If he throws it, he's now defined as the passer. He continues to be the passer, which is very important here because we're talking about roughing the passer, right? So if a player threw a pass, a legal forward pass, and now is considered the passer, he's protected and considered a passer until a legal forward pass has ends. Okay. So ask yourself, when does a legal forward pass end? So when does a pass end? In Rule 2, a forward pass ends when it is caught, touches the ground, or goes out of bounds. Okay. Those are the three instances where a pass ends. So in other words, while the pass is in the air, and before it has been caught, touches the ground, or goes out of bounds, that player who threw the ball remains a passer. Okay? Because he continues to be a passer until a legal pass has ended. A legal forward pass has ended. All right? He moves to participate in the play. So, if he throws it and he fades away, he throws it and just stand there. He's not running up the field. He's not trying to go anywhere. There should be no contact with the passer. All right. So those are the things we need to pay attention to and remember how long he remains the passer and when he can just become another player at that point. All right. So those is interception. All right. Again, this is the deal, guys. Because what Rule 9 does is cover a lot. And it doesn't leave any room or gaps, gray areas, right? For example, we read last week that charging to a player who has not in the vicinity of the play, not trying to participate in the play, is a personal foul. Okay? So just because the passer threw an interception, somebody comes charging into him, it's still a personal foul. It will not be roughing the passer. Remember, it can't be roughing the passer because the pass is ended because it was caught. But that doesn't mean that anyone on that field has free reign to hurt people and to charge into people just for the sake of injuring someone or to call himself getting that big play. All right, let's continue. All right, roughing the passer. No defensive player to charge into or commit any illegal personal contact fouls listed in 943 against the passer who is standing still or fading back because he's considered out of the play after the pass has not moved to participate in the play. Grasping the face mask is considered roughing the passer. So in Rule 944, it defined roughing the passer as anything listed in Rule 943. So if you have a horse collar after the pass is thrown, that's considered roughing the passer. If you make illegal helmet contact with the passer, that's considered roughing the passer. So any of those personal fouls, targeting or any of those things toward a passer, all those are considered roughing the passer, and it comes with the 15-yard penalty, automatic first down. Okay. There's only one foul that's not considered roughing the passer. That is an incidental face mask. Right. Number 54 grabs, but does not twist, pull, or turn the passer's face mask. The foul is an incidental face mask and is not roughing the passer. The penalty is 5 yards administered under the all but one principle and no automatic first down. Okay, so an incidental face mask is not considered roughing the passer. However, if you feel that the contact to the helmet could have been interpreted as targeting or considered targeting, then you may call it roughing the passer, but it just let each game dictates, right? If it's just reaching up, grabbing, releasing, it may not be considered targeting. But again, that's your judgment call on these, especially on roughing the passer. But remember, always side with the passer and protect him or rule in his favor. So now we're going to talk about the kicker. All right. Kickers are considered defenseless players just like quarterbacks are, or passers are, I'm sorry, as the passer is. All right. Just because of his position and his concentration and all the things that define what a defenseless player in Rule 2, Section 32. All right. A kicker who has not had a reasonable amount of time to regain his balance after the kick is a defenseless player and warrants our protection. All right. If there's anyone that really needs to be watched out for, is the kicker, because he's on one leg, he's off balance, and sometimes, again, the frustration of the defense, pressure from the coach, the parents, and the other players to get in there and stop this kicker, the frustration may cause him to do some things he should not do. All right. A player becomes a kicker when his knee, lower leg, or foot makes contact with the ball. He continues to be the kicker. Now, again, let me stop there. To be a kicker, the ball must be kicked. Okay. So, scenario, let's say on a punt, he goes up and he missed the ball and he is tackled. All right. That is not roughing the kicker, because he does not become the kicker until the ball is made contact with either his knee, lower leg, or foot. Other than that, he's just a runner. All right. However, Rule 943, if you feel that the contact is unnecessary, not unnecessary, but excessive and unnecessary, you can rule a personal foul. But it would not be considered roughing the kicker, because he's not the kicker until he kicks the ball. All right. Again, just like the passer, he remains the passer until the kicker. He continues to be the kicker until he has had reasonable opportunity to regain his balance. Okay. When there's reasonable opportunity to regain his balance. So when he's on one leg and is bringing his foot down, he has not gained his balance. And we got to be vigilant to ensure that unnecessary contact into that player is not done. And just like they got to avoid contact with the passer, they need to avoid contact with the kicker. All right. There are two penalties for illegal contact with a scrimmage kick or a place kick holder. We have running into or roughing. Okay. Now, in Rule 9.4, there are two fouls: the illegal face mask and roughing, illegal contact with the kicker, that carries two different administrative penalties: 5 yards and 15 yards. Okay. So remember, in the face mask, incidental grab, twisting or pulling is grab inside or release, is a 5-yard penalty. Running into the kicker, not charging into him, and displacing him, which you're going to see, is a 5-yard penalty, and it's not roughing the kicker, it's running into the kicker. It's the 5-yard penalty from the previous spot. The coach may be screaming, "What are you doing? That should be roughing." Obviously, going to try to get you to call roughing, but understand there's not necessarily roughing because he runs into the kicker. All right. Again, running into and roughing is always a judgment call on the referee. And like I said before, when in doubt, always call roughing. All right. Running into is contact that displaces the kicker or holder from their position without roughing. All right. So, you may hit his leg and move him, or he may fall to the ground. All right. Due to the contact, you may call running into the kicker. Roughing is blocking, tackling, or charging into the kicker or holder. Right. So it's just full-fledged attack mode onto the kicker or holder, in not disregard of if you make contact with the ball, whatever. We gotta see, are they playing the players, or are they trying to block the ball? All right. Again, judgment call that comes through experience, seeing a whole bunch of them and getting that call right. All right. Make any other contact with an opponent, including defenseless players, which is deemed unnecessary and excessive, and which incites roughness. All right. So again, Rule 4.3G, it may or may not be roughing the pass, the kicker, but again, we got to be careful and always understand that those players are defenseless, especially if they're out of the play. It's a scrimmage kick or it's a field goal, a scrimmage kick for a point. There's no reason to make contact with those players. All right. There's an exception. Oh, and I did not put it on the automation. So it's all there in front of you. Exception. Contact is avoidable because it is not reasonable certain that a kick will be made. Okay. So we're talking about the rugby style kick. Okay. Understand this. The kicker is considered a runner until he kicks the ball. If let's say it was an errant snap, he gets the ball and he tries to roll out, it's not reasonable certain that he's going to kick the ball. Okay. So if a defender is engaged and in charging to make a tackle, and then he abruptly stops and kicks the ball and he's tackled, again, it's a judgment call, but that would not necessarily be considered roughing the kicker because he wasn't reasonable certain that he was going to kick the ball. Right? He decided at the last minute, I'm not going to run, I'm going to kick it. So we got to give a little leeway and exception to the rule. So, but if he stops, plants, kicks the ball, and then it is clearly seen it was kicked, and he still gets tackled, you may have roughing. All right. The defense touches the kick near the kicker, and contact is should be unavoidable. Contact is unavoidable because why did I put avoidable? Whatever. Contact is unavoidable. So in other words, he kicked it, the ball is kicked, he blocked it, but as he blocks it, he comes down and make contact with his again, not necessarily a foul, it's unavoidable. And again, contact will be made because he blocking the kick. And I also leave an exception to those next to him as well. Again, it's a judgment. We're not looking for slaughtering the kicker, but at the same time, we got to understand that you block, contact may be made. Contact is slight and it's partially caused by movement of the kicker. All right. So again, he kicks it, he moving, and there's a little contact, maybe a little bit of movement from him, might move a little bit, not necessarily running into or roughing the kicker, because the movement of the kicker, because actually he's trying to avoid him, but his movement still makes contact, may not be a foul. Contact is caused by R being blocked into the kicker or holder by K. All right. So obviously, if he's coming in, he's getting pushed by a K blocker, and he pushes him into the kicker or holder. There's no roughing the kicker or holder in those instances. I was going fast. I will be having automation here. We're going to keep going. Roughing the snapper, right? A defense player shall not charge directly into the snapper when the offensive team is in a scrimmage kick formation. And then right down here is, again, a scrimmage kick formation. not just a shotgun formation, right? So in Rule 2, it defines what a scrimmage kick formation is. And if we're not in that scrimmage kick formation, the snapper does not have that protection, okay? So a scrimmage kick formation is one in which no player is in position to receive a hand-to-hand snap from between the snapper's legs and at the snap, either the holder with knee on the ground 7 yards or more behind the line of scrimmage and ready for a long snap with a kicker 3 yards or less behind the holder, or a player is 10 yards or more behind the line of scrimmage and in position to receive a long snap. So in all those things, we're talking about a long snap. All right. And you can see the picture behind the words here. The snapper in these long snaps literally have to keep his head down and see his target to get that ball to the holder. And so because of that, he is afforded protection. Now, a couple of things on this protection. A defensive player shall not charge directly. Okay. So it's not saying that the defender can't take the gap in between the guard or the adjacent player and the snapper. And not saying you can't make contact with the snapper. It's saying you just can't charge directly into the snapper. Now I know a lot of officials love to say you can't line up over the center or over the snapper in a scrimmage kick formation. The rule doesn't say that, guys. The rule just says he can't charge. If he lines up there, and as long as he don't make contact, he's fine. I know we do it for preventive officiating, but I'm just for the sake of just understanding, is the rule does not prohibit a nose guard. The rule prohibits a nose guard charging directly into the snapper. So he can line up on the snapper and then shoot the gap. And although he may make contact with the snapper shoulder pad and the other adjacent player guard, it's not a roughing the passer because he did not charge him directly head on. Okay. In a scrimmage kick formation, the snapper remains the snapper. Here we go. Until. So the passer remains the passer until the pass, the forward pass is complete, or he moves to participate, right? A kicker remains a kicker until he has reasonable time to regain his balance. A snapper remains a snapper until he has reasonable opportunity to regain his balance and protect himself, or until he blocks or moves to otherwise participate in the play. Right? So he snaps it as long as his head is facing down. There should be no one charging directly into the snapper. All right, got to have reasonable time to get up and to regain his balance. But again, if it's a kick and the ball is already gone, it shouldn't be no contact with the snapper either way, unless there's a return on the kick or something like that. So again, why are you making contact with the snapper anyways? But again, those are the things you need to understand. He remains a snapper until he has reasonable opportunity to regain his balance and protect himself, or until he blocks or moves otherwise to participate in the play. All right. So in Rule 4.7, we're done with those. No defensive player may use the hand or hands to slap the blocker's head. Okay, I've seen it. I've called it personal foul. A lot of times, especially if the defensive player is in the stance and the offensive blocker is in the 3-point stance, the 4-point stance, they tend to slap them in the head and go around them. They call it the bell ringer. Okay, a foul. It's a personal foul, 15-yard penalty. It's not necessarily considered targeting, but it is a foul, and it's a 15-yard penalty. Okay, the ball, it's not a dead ball foul; it's a live ball foul. Plays go on, depending on the result of the play. It'll be from the end of the run, or from the previous spot if there's a fumble and so on and so forth. Right. And B, if the slap to the head while the ball is in the air to a pass, it will be a defensive pass interference. And knowing me, I may call intentional pass interference, and give them a 30-yard penalty. Right? Unintentional contact between a non-player and a game official in the restricted area while the ball is live. All right, so now we transition to another rule. This is talking about contact with a coach, a non-player, in the restricted area during a live ball. All right. In high school, we know, right? Even high school coaches, even the picture here, they're going to cheat up when they can. And a lot of times, if the referees are nowhere, or a game official nowhere in the area, we tend not to overlook it. But in youth football, it is a major problem. In youth and flag, everywhere I've been, and it's a major problem. And it just tends to get worse and worse and worse. So what can we do? All right. I don't know. I mean, it's been like that since I've been doing youth. A couple of things we can do is continually let these players, coaches, and players know to please get out of our way, back up. Again, I always move the yard markers 2 yards back, and I definitely make sure I tell the coaches that players must stay behind the yard markers. Okay. Like I said, you saw me in the early videos about the chains. I may move the chains back a lot and make sure everybody stays behind the chains. But it's something that we're going to have to continue to endeavor to enforce and to stress that you stay out of the area for not only our safety, but the people holding the chains and everybody else involved. They need to stay out of our way so that we can work. Okay. The coach's area is a minimum of 2-yard belt between the front of the team box and the sideline, and becomes a restricted area when the ball is live. Okay. So the coach, you got the team box, you got the coach's box. Okay. The coach's box goes from the sideline to the 2-yard marker of the team box. And in that coach's area, 3 coaches, 3 people can come up while the ball is dead, give out their commands, whatever. But as soon as the ball is about to become live, they must leave that area. That area now becomes a restricted area when the ball is live. All right. Now, in Rule 9.8 on the unsportsmanlike conduct, I just tie that into this because it also talks about the restricted area as well. Remember, making contact with a non-player in a restricted area is a personal foul, and it's a 15-yard penalty, and it's a non-player foul, so it can still be a touchdown. It could, whatever the play is, it's from the succeeding spot. Now in 9.8.3, it talks about a coach just being in a restricted area, but there's no contact. And you can see the line judge running around the head coach to continue on with the play. All right. A coach in the restricted area while the ball is live is a 15-yard penalty for unsportsmanlike conduct. Now, if we get it before then, there's a little tier, right? You can issue a sideline warning. The first offense is just a warning. Then the second time, it'll be sideline interference. That will come with a 5-yard penalty. And then anything after that becomes a 15-yard penalty, and it's also assessed against the head coach. All right. So there's like all this warnings. Stay out of the restricted area. All right. 2, 5-yard penalty. 3, 15-yard penalty. All right. So again, there's a lot of room there to correct it. If they don't, then we have a foul. All right. A maximum of 3 coaches may be in a restricted area doing a dead ball. No player, non-player, or coach shall be in a restricted area when the ball is live. Again, just repeating over and over again. This game right here, the Super Bowl game, and you can see that there's a coach, 2 coaches up in the area at the time of the game. But for the most part, it is clear. And I don't know if the ball was live or not. Offense probably was. Again, we need to keep that area clean and clear, right? Again, this is your tolerance, game officials, guardians. If you want to be a stickler on it, you can, just sideline warnings that go through the whole caboodle. We'll talk about what that entails, what the sideline warning procedures look in the future. But me personally, I just tell the coach, get out of my way, go to my other side, I'm going this way. Again, with protection. So again, we can always talk about this later as a group on one of our conference calls and how we handle this in the near future. Okay. Illegal personal contact fouls involve potential for injury to an opponent. Unsportsmanlike conduct fouls include profanity and vulgar language. Okay. A couple of things. We know if you get 2 unsportsmanlike conduct fouls, you're disqualified. Okay. However, just from, I'm gonna clarify this too, just from a loose conversation, there's no limit on personal fouls on players. A player can have 5 personal fouls in the game as long as it's not fighting, or I'm gonna say the word in a minute, or the other thing, all right? So a lot of times we get it mixed up, all right? Personal fouls deal with contact. Unsportsmanlike fouls conduct deals with non-contact fouls, all right? And 2 non-contact fouls, i.e. profanity and some of the stuff we're going to cover next, that warrants a disqualification. However, in the rules, we have what you call a flagrant foul that's associated with personal fouls. And if a covering official or a game official deemed that the contact was flagrant, that warrants a disqualification even on the first offense. So if it's an unnecessary roughness, that's a Rule 943G, if we feel that it was flagrant, if we feel whatever, the targeting foul was flagrant, the helmet spearing was flagrant, the face mask was flagrant, the roughing the passer was flagrant, roughing the kicker was flagrant, holder, roughing the snapper was flagrant, the slap to the head was flagrant, and players laying on the ground, hurt, injured, whatever the case may be, we can deem it flagrant, and that player will be disqualified from one-on offense. They don't have to have 2 or 3 or whatever it is, he's disqualified. Okay. Again, that is on the judgment of the game officials at the time. I just want to put that out there. Unsportsmanlike conduct is non-contact fouls. The only one I would say that it doesn't match as an uncontact foul is intentional pass interference. Because intentional pass interference is a pass interference, is the first 15 yards, and the second 15 yards is considered unsportsmanlike conduct. However, obviously, there had to be contact made. That's why we call intentional pass interference. That's the only one that would be a contact unsportsmanlike conduct, right? But we're talking about, it says none, the label on Rule 9, 5 is non-contact unsportsmanlike conduct. So section 5 and 8, we're going to combine both of these together, okay? It's non-contact unsportsmanlike conduct by players and non-players. So you got section 5 and section 8, we're going to combine them together because they both deal with unsportsmanlike conduct. There's some variations, we'll talk about that, but there's a lot of similarities as well. Okay. No player shall act in an unsportsmanlike manner once the game officials assume authority for the contest. No coach, substitute, athletic trainer, or other team attendant shall act in an unsportsmanlike manner once the game officials assume authority for the contest. All right. One is in section 5 and one is in section 8. Very similar. All right. And it also says this: when considering sportsmanship, many may first think only of the game participants, athletes, and coaches within the time frame of the game. Although players and coaches are the most visible in their display of sportsmanship, Proper sportsmanship also includes public address announcers, bands, and spectators. Now, do we do any foul calls on this? No. Okay. However, if we really feel that it's affecting the players and the opponents, we can get with a game administration, let them know, can you please assist in this, because it is around the emotions of the players, which and gender and will, which we do not want to see. Okay, so if it really becomes that big of an issue, please official timeout, talk to game management, and see if they can do something about it. All right. So there you go. Prior to the game, the referee shall meet with the head coaches and captains and explain that everyone is expected to exhibit good sportsmanship throughout the game. I meant to put my definition of sportsmanship. I did not, ran out of time. But although the rule talks about, this is considered unsportsmanlike conduct, basically it's all about respect, right? Respecting the other team. They have every right to win as though the other team does, right? Each team has an equal right to win the game. And we understand that the emotions are high and all the other circumstances in the game, some good, some bad, like I said, they're gambling or whatever the case may be, may cause some high intention emotions, especially against us and the other team. But this is one of Guardians, this is one of the biggest things. We not only need to watch out for the safety of the players, but also we got to protect their emotions and keep sportsmanship in check. All right. Now, unsportsmanlike conduct applies to players and non-players. So we see right here in section 5, it says use profanity, insulting, or vulgar language or gestures. Flip over to section 8, pretty much says the same thing. Very similar, applies to both. Using alcohol, any form of tobacco products, i.e. cigarette, and flip over to section 8. It says the exact same thing. Hopefully you don't got no players out there drunk. Never know. Definitely no cigarettes, no tobacco, no e-cigarettes. None of that stuff is allowed on the sidelines during the contest. Okay. Now, these are things that relates to game officials in section 5 and in section 8. All right, on the players, refusing to comply with a game official's request. All right, so just the fact if you tell a player, instruct the player to do something, and they disrespect and say, well, I'm not doing that, whatever, he go get the ball, man, bump that ball and don't go get it. Tip, I'm not saying do it, but it can be unsportsmanlike. All right. Hey, come here for a minute. He refused. We want to try to give him some instructions. Give you unsportsmanlike. Or just refusing to comply with a game official request. Roll off. Don't push down. Any of those things. Guys, remember, we're not flag hungry out here. I'm saying these things, but understand, please use your discretion in a lot of it, okay? Because these fouls can dictate the games. Leaving the field between downs without permission of a game official and not trying to be a replay. This is I was talking to Tony about this rule earlier because I didn't write the whole thing down, but it talks about unless you're a replaced player, obviously you can leave the field. But it does talk about just leaving the field without permission. I mean, I never really seen this. I mean, it's something that it'd be very difficult to enforce or call. The example Tony gave was, let's say it's a injury timeout and you tell the players not to leave the field, and the player leaves the field anyways. Or you think the player has some illegal equipment on, and you're trying to, hey, come here for a minute, I need to check you, and he runs off the field. because he don't want you to check that he got sticky gloves on or he has some illegal stuff on. Then guess what? Unsportsmanlike conduct. Okay, those are two examples that Tony and I worked out when we was talking about how that plays in a game, because we don't really see it that much. Intentionally fail to immediately return the ball or return it to a nearby game official when the ball becomes dead in player's possession. Right? Again, guys, you get them players, you give them the ball, and they like, the rule also applies leaving it on the ground. We'll talk about that too. But if you got a player just trying to be a quote unquote ass, and if you feel that he needs to be a humble, we can call unsportsmanlike conduct for that. All right. Non-players include replaced players, substitutes, anybody who's not one of 11 players on the field on either team. All right. Hold up. Now, I love these three. Is 9, 8, 1, B, C, D. Okay. I love these. Unfortunately, we rarely use these in the game. We give coaches tremendous leeway. But I always use these as a joke, or as not really a joke, but as coaches always say, you have to call that, right? Right? You have to call that. If you see encroachment, you have to call that. If you see holding, you have to call that. They'd be very adamant about it, yelling at us, screaming at us. But I laughed when I said, well, if I have to call that, then I have to call unsportsmanlike conduct on you. It's amazing how they wanted to cherry pick what they want us to call and not call, but they wanted to totally, completely ignore this portion of the rules. Let's follow it. Let's go. The rule says, attempting to influence a decision by a game official. It doesn't say a call. It says influence a decision. A decision could be a call or a no call. So by the fact of any non-player, particularly coaches, trying to influence us to make a decision is an unsportsmanlike conduct on that player or coach. How many times we see this? Disrespectfully addressing the game official, right? That is on you. I can't tell you what's disrespectfully addressing you. That is your personal opinion on what you consider disrespect, non-disrespect. But again, is an unsportsmanlike conduct found. And typically, we always say, if they make it personal, we got to deem it. Indicating objection to a game official's call. Again, how many times? Man, that's not, whatever they say. You know what they say if you're a veteran or you got experience. But any three of those, and a lot of times it's a combination of all three, is unsportsmanlike conduct on that coach or that non-player or the player on the sideline. Typically, we give the head coach a lot of leniency when it gets to this. We typically don't enforce this rule, and we don't pull it out unless it's really getting out of hand. But just for the sake of, well, coach, if you're going to try to tell me I have to call that, well, I have to call this too. All right. And, go figure. All right. Unsportsmanlike conduct for players. They go to the rest of it, guys. Baiting or taunting acts or words or a insignia worn which endangers ill will. So if they wear a Confederate undershirt or a Confederate banner, even though it's hidden, it can be considered unsportsmanlike conduct, and they may have to take it off. Obviously, swastikas, anything of those such, even Black Panther stuff. If the other team feels that the insignia is engendered, it goes both ways, guys, for Black power and white power. All right. Any delay, excess, or prolonged acts by which players attempt to focus attention upon themselves, we know that. Kicking the ball other than doing an illegal kick, right? Typically, if they're mad, they'll kick the ball. So again, guys, the ball, one player laid the ball on the ground. All right, we're going to pick it up. Another player kicks it because he's mad. Unsportsmanlike conduct. All right, ball becomes dead in player's possession. He shall not intentionally kick the ball, spike the ball into the ground, throw the ball high into the air or from the field of play or end zone. Intentionally failed to place the ball on the ground, and we read the other part on the official, but intentionally failed to place the ball on the ground. Now I've seen players spike the ball on the ground, and I did not throw unsportsmanlike conduct. Right? For some reason I just didn't want it. I didn't do it. Coaches may yell at you, but again, a player spiking the ball on the ground because he's mad, I consider just driving excess over the speed limit, and I may give him a warning, or I may give him a ticket. That's my decision to make. It's not necessarily illegal personal foul. It's not using profanity towards someone. So sometimes I have been known not to call it, but yet I do call it as well. Again, that's up to you, and you let that situation in that particular game dictates if you're going to call unsportsmanlike conduct, we spike the ball into the ground. All right, coaches or non-players using illegal communication equipment. I'm not going to cover all that, but you can look it up in the rule book. Holding unauthorized conferences. I did not put the exception in here, and I apologize. I did not do it. I'm thinking about it right now. There's a note. Players going to the sideline, talking to their coaches is not considered a timeout or an unauthorized conference. Any amount of players, if they want to run to their sideline during their 40-second play clock or their 25-second play clock, may do so. And they'll tell you, are they calling timeout? No, they're not calling timeout. The players went over to the coaches. The ball is dead. The coach is allowed to be in a restricted area until the ball becomes live. The team players are allowed to go over to the sidelines as many as they want and talk to their coaches. It's not considered an unauthorized conference, and it's not considered a timeout. Okay. But there's two different types of conferences that we read in Rule 3. Again, in between the 9 marks and outside of 9 hash marks, you can't hold both at the same time. You only hold one per timeout. Again, you can look it up and you can read more about it, but understand it's unsportsmanlike conduct for holding unauthorized conference. Following pregame verification, a coach allowing his or her players to use illegal equipment. Again, remember, hey, come here for a minute, and they run off the field. I mean, really, you probably can't say illegal equipment because you have time to check it, but you definitely get the player. Being on the field except as a substitute or replace player. How many times coaches, never mind. They're always on the field. Get off the field, coach. Get off the field, coach. We deal with it all the time. Being outside the team box, but not on the field of play. Now, again, that's referring to being in the restricted area, but just not on the field. So either way, right? You're on the field, 15-yard penalty. You're in the restricted area, 15-yard penalty. All right. A substitute leaving the team box during a fight. Now, in my original rule, it says anyone leaving the team box, but they actually included, they changed it to substitute. So obviously, if a coach is trying to break up a fight, that's different and may not warrant being an unsportsmanlike conduct going that coach. Substitute those that own the players on the sideline obviously cannot leave the team box during a fight. Right now, I know I missed something on here. I did not include it because I was rushing. Oh, and 3 attendants, none of whom as a coach. Let me finish this one. All right, so this is referring to let's say we have water break. None of the attendees can be a coach. Right, a coach cannot take and act like he's an attendee, right? It has to be non-coaches, right? Again, untypically enforce it, just bringing it out. But what I was meant to say is, I did leave a portion out of this, and that portion is referring to, if I can remember, I just had it top of my head. Coaches not returning back. Three things: the coin toss, right? If the coaches are not respecting the coin toss rules, like everybody's off the field but the team captains, and they try to come onto the hash mark, I mean, that's unsportsmanlike conduct because they're not adhering to the rules in Rule 3 in regards to a coin toss, right? If they're not back on the field, this is high school, for the mandatory warm up, it's unsportsmanlike conduct. If they're not ready to start the game when you say start the game, it can be unsportsmanlike conduct and result in a forfeit. Okay, I didn't put it in. I was rushing. I realized I didn't put it in, but now you know. All right. Section 6, illegal participation. All right. So in the first article 961 on the illegal participation, a team A player, A or K player, cannot leave the field of play and return, or is illegal participation. Okay. Team A player, number 80, steps on the sideline and then returns in bounds and catches for a pass. Number 80 has committed an illegal participation foul. The spotted foul is where he returned inbounds. No foul if he does not return inbounds. Similar restrictions apply to a team K player. All right. This is unintentionally, guys, or intentionally, unfortunately. Once a K player go out of bounds or A player go out of bounds, they cannot come in. He does not lose his eligibility because the rule says once you're eligible, you're always eligible. But the thing is, so that means even if even the ball players don't go to him, if he still comes in bounds, it's illegal participation. Very rarely anybody calls this, but I'm just letting you know what the rules say. But I know a lot of officials don't, unless he really actually participates, don't call it. All right. The other part of that, if a player is blocked out of bounds by an opponent and returns to the field of play during the down, he shall return at the first opportunity. So I guess in the NFL, if a receiver gets blocked out of bounds, he has to stay out of bounds no matter what. However, in National Federation of High School rules, that is not true. If you get blocked out of bounds, you can come back in bounds, but you must do it at your first opportunity. If the covering official saw that you stay out and try to get an advantage for it, and then you come in bounds, now we got illegal participation. I heard a story about at a state final game, a player got legally blocked out of bounds, but he ran around the back of the team and then came back in bounds and caught a pass where he could have came in bounds prior to that and they didn't catch it. So again, he has to come back in immediately. He can't, first opportunity, obviously. You can't stay out there and try to go around some people and come back in somewhere else, right? All right, think about everything else about illegal participation. When any player, replace player, or substitute, or coach, or athletic trainer, or other attendant enters or participates during a down. Believe it or not, the coach, athletic trainer, other attendant was added to the rules. It used to just be player, replace player, and substitute. Obviously, everybody trying to participate, legal participation. If an injured player is not replaced for at least one down unless the halftime or overtime and admission occurs, illegal participation. To have 12 or more players participating at the snap, obviously we know that, is not breaking the huddle, it's participating after the snap, guys, right? To use a player, replace player, substitute, coach, athletic trainer, or other attendant in a substitution or pretend substitution to deceive the opponent at or immediately before the snap and free kick. Again, the coach, athletic trainer, attendee was added. Why? Because they're the main ones that are the instigators in this type of ploy, which we're gonna get to unfair acts, and we're gonna talk about it too. So, hey, get off the field. You're not supposed to be on the field. And he's running, and they snap the ball, and he goes up the field. Illegal participation, guys. We got to stop allowing that stuff to happen. That is illegal. Okay. Anybody who's trying to pretend or act like they're a substitute or leaving the field or sneak on the field, any of those things, that is not football, and it needs to be done away with. All right. And we're going to talk about it a little bit more later, but yes, that has to stop. Okay. For a player to be lying on the ground to deceive opponent at or immediately before the snap, free kick. I never seen it before. I was talking to Tony about this. So that means if somebody try to fake an injury, is that illegal participation? Don't touch it. Leave it alone, right? I mean, like, it's hard to enforce that, be objective and not being seen as somebody who just mean. So I don't ever see this happen before, but it's in there. Apparently it happens somewhere. All right, and for a disqualified player to re-enter the game, obviously, you disqualify somebody, you find he's back in the game with a different number, illegal participation. All right. But now it's also illegal participation. If a player helmet comes off completely during a down and continues to participate beyond the immediate actions in which the player is engaged, is a foul for illegal participation. All right. So if his helmet come off, is he making a tackle? Fine. Helmet come off, he try to make a tackle, he doesn't make the tackle, and the runner runs off, and he gets up and chases the runner, we have illegal participation at that point. However, if someone blocks him, now we got illegal personal contact foul, because it's illegal to block a person when his helmet is off. So you have 2 fouls that happen. You have double fouls, just to know. However, if he participates with his helmet come off, illegal participation. Obviously, if he's a defender, it'd be at the end of the run, you'll mark off the extra 15 yards. Almost done, guys. Illegal kick and batting. No player should intentionally kick the ball other than as a free kick or scrimmage kick. No player should bat a loose ball. Exception: a pass, a fumble in flight, a low scrimmage kick in flight, which is attempting to block in or behind the expanded neutral zone. The key word, guys, in flight, right? So as long as the pass is in flight, he can bat it, or the player can bat it. As long as the scrimmage kick is in flight, in or behind the neutral zone, he can bat it. All right? Exception: K may bat a scrimmage kick, which is beyond the neutral zone, toward his own goal line. This is a legal action. If the bat occurs beyond the plane of the goal line, the ball is already dead, so it doesn't matter. It's a touchback. All right, causing it to be a touchback. K may also bat a scrimmage kick in flight beyond the neutral zone toward his own goal line if no R player is in position to catch the ball. All right. And any pass in flight, keyword in flight, guys, may be batted in any direction by an eligible receiver unless it is a backwards pass batted for it by the passing team. So in other words, if the ball goes up in the air and I'm talented and I'm going to do a assist pass, I got another teammate running past me, I can run up and I can bat the ball back any direction toward my teammate. He can catch it and run with it as long as the pass is in flight. Okay. I think you can see that on YouTube. I think it happened on YouTube one time. As long as the ball is in flight, you can bat it any direction. By eligible receivers, or obviously ineligible receivers on the line can't do that unless the ball is touched by B, in, or behind. All right. A ball in player possession shall not be batted forward by a player of team possession. So you can't bat the ball forward to make it a fumble or something like that. It's illegal. Right? It's a 10-yard penalty, guys. All right, last one, guys. We're almost done. Thank you for being patient with me. Unfair act. The key thing in this, I want you to know that neither team shall commit any act which is an opinion of the referee tends to make travesty of the game. And I'm going to read something to you in a minute because I didn't have time to write it down. But unfair acts such as a hide out play depict in this mechanigram are illegal. So the guy in the circle over there, again, guys, that illegal substitution thing, the hideaway guys, typically you can see this one way. They call a timeout. Everybody go to the sideline, talk to the coach. When they break, that player stays out there. Now, we're already going to have illegal formation because every player must be within the 9-yard mark, which is above the numbers. But again, if he act like he's leaving the field, or going to run the field and stops and doesn't leave the field and maybe face the team box and then wait for the snap, unfair act, unsportsmanlike conduct. Now, let me read this to you real fast and we'll be done. From a field goal formation, potential kicker A1 yells, "Where's the T?" A2 replies, "I'll go get it," and goes legally in motion toward his team sideline. The ball is snapped to A1, who throws a touchdown pass to A2. Ruling: unsportsmanlike conduct prior to the snap. The ball should declare dead and the foul enforced as a dead ball foul. Comments: football has been and always will be a game of deception and trickery involving multiple shifts, unusual formations, and creative plays. However, actions or verbiage designed to confuse the defense into believing there is a problem and a snap isn't imminent is beyond the scope of sportsmanship and is illegal. Casebook. All right. So, all that, hey, coach, I think I got the wrong football. And then try to run, dead ball foul, unsportsmanlike. All right. Any word, any verbiage, any action that make the defense think that the play is not imminent, illegal. And we see a lot of it. You can go to YouTube and see all kinds of things, them making motions and doing all that crazy stuff like that, and the officials just letting it go. They need to come to this class, right? They done missed it, all right? So guys, that is it. Thank you for being patient with me. I know I can be a little talkative, but those things are very adamant to me. All right, so you can